Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone to our session on climate careers. I am Katie Cross. I'm the co-founder of ClimateCAP, and I am the managing director of the Center for Energy Development and the Global Environment at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. I am really excited to welcome you to this session on navigating climate career options. You all are in for a treat. Every time I hear Marcus Castain speak, I learn some new tip or trick or resource that I haven't heard. And that's saying a lot because I do a lot of research on careers myself. So as we go through the presentation in a few minutes, we'll ask you to use the Q&A button for questions. And then after Marcus is done presenting, we'll have time for a Q&A that I will moderate with him. We will also be making the recording available afterwards, so if to everyone who registered for this session. So if you have to drop out or you want the slides afterwards, you'll have a chance to see them. So again, today we are welcoming Marcus Castain from UCLA Anderson to lead our session today on climate career options. And Marcus has been guiding MBA students at UCLA and across the country for years. And he has even taught other career coaches some of the best methods and resources to support a climate career search. So I am excited to jump into the conversation with Marcus. But before I do, just a couple of notes. Hopefully, by this point in our session, you've heard about ClimateCAP and all that we offer. We hope that we are just at the beginning of your engagement with ClimateCAP as a resource for you throughout your MBA journey. One program that I would like to highlight is the ClimateCAP MBA Fellowship, which is a year-long immersive experience for a small group of students who really want to go deep on climate and business topics. It's a very competitive application process. It's a really terrific supplemental learning experience. Our fellows participate in self-directed project work where each of them design and implement a climate action project, and they receive coaching and attend cohort building activities virtually throughout the year. So you can read more about our fellowship opportunity, our current fellowships and the previous, our current fellows and the previous cohorts on our website, which is climatecap.org. You can also find out information about how to apply. Typically, students apply for the fellowship in the fall of their first MBA year, and then the fellowship starts in January. So if this interests you, it's absolutely something that you can start thinking about now in the first year of your MBA program. Before I begin, I want to say again, thank you to our sponsors for ClimateCATALYST. As you'll see, their names come up over and over again, of course, throughout the course of our program. And now I'd like to move on to our session. So Marcus, we have put his entire bio on the registration page so you can read about the many accolades in his bio. We won't go into reading your bio now, Marcus, but I'm gonna turn it over to you to get us started, and then we'll come back together for questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Katie and Jessica. I always enjoy presenting on this topic because I'm really passionate both about the people's career journeys, my favorite thing to talk about, as well as the climate space. So this is the intersection of two things I get really excited about. So let's jump into it. I've got a little agenda for us today. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of a poll of what you all are interested in. And I'm kind of curious. I think that MBA students are actually a really good tracker of enthusiasm in the economy. So I'm kind of curious to see what you all think in terms of your areas of interest. Then we'll talk about kind of the elephant in the room, which is the headwinds that our sector is facing, but there are also some really significant tailwinds. I want to talk about your top 4 priorities, which is something that I hope you'll be able to figure out quickly. If you were at UCLA Anderson, I'd be asking you to do this by the end of your second week. That's how the MBA job search has evolved, is that you really know what you want, need to know what you want once you come to business school. We'll spend a big chunk of time on market segmentation and going deeper. How do you learn more? And I want to share some resources with you to learn more. And then I'll finish up. Well, actually, after this, after we talk about kind of what is the key things to successfully pivot careers, I actually just saw a statistic from our incoming class at Anderson that 92% of our students are expecting or hoping to pivot careers. And I think that is reflective of many business schools. So what is the formula for that career pivot? And then after that, of course, we will have some Q&A. So this is a chart I really like. It was put together by a market research firm. And I know there's a lot in here, but I think that it really summarizes what how broad the climate landscape is. And on the left-hand side, we have more biology, biosphere, food, and ag, circular economy, and then it becomes more and more about the built economy. And so two students who are both interested in climate, maybe both a part of the same club, are likely to have vastly different interests and therefore vastly different career searches. So we're going to do a Slido. Hopefully most of you are familiar with this. It won't become active until I switch to the next slide, but I want to leave this slide up so that you can absorb it a little bit and say, ah, that's the one. I like grid 8.3, energy and utility grid. So don't do numbers, but when you have the opportunity to answer something on the Slido, go ahead and type in, for example, energy and utility grid. So I'm going to open this up right now. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just like where's your head right now in terms of your interest from an industry sector perspective in the climate landscape? And let's see what we get. There we go. Okay, it's working. All right, this is fun. So we're seeing a lot of different interests, of which climate finance and circular economy are the two biggest ones. But this just kind of confirmed my point of just how diverse our sector is. When we talk about climate, I sometimes say with students like climate is not, or sustainability is not an industry area. It is a category of a whole bunch of industry areas, incredibly important, in my opinion, to the future both of humanity and of all life on this planet. But there's so many different aspects of this. So thanks for those votes. I'm going to move us on though. I think you will still be able to keep voting. But this is great. Fun. Okay, so let's talk about first the tailwinds. So I believe, and this is my opinion, that there are some really good fundamentals for why you would want to choose to focus on climate and in your career. And the first one is it's inevitable, tragically, that the climate is changing. We were just talking right now about how hot it is in North Carolina right before the call. And you see epic heat waves, these horrendous wildfires that are happening. And the signs are going on, and unfortunately, it will never be as cool as it is now in terms of the average on the planet. So this is something that is inevitable that will impact your entire life. We do have really significant international, national, and regional regulation. And even when one pushes backwards, as we're seeing now at the federal level, there's still a lot of other forces that are pushing towards regulation, regulating pollutants and greenhouse gases. We have a lot of people trying to make money at this that are putting investment capital into organizations that they believe can make a difference on this challenge. There is a tremendous cost advantage for both renewable energy and electric vehicles. These are better, less expensive, more reliable technologies. And so even if, Donald Trump is trying to bolster the coal sector, it's not working because nobody in their right mind would invest in a coal plant versus putting in place a solar field. Um, Insurance markets are becoming a huge driver, and you're seeing this in market after market. We're experiencing it in California because of our fire risk. You're seeing it in Florida because of hurricane risk. There's so many areas where insurance is really becoming the driver. And younger generations, you all and your younger siblings are becoming more and more aware of the climate emergency And I think that's a huge driver. But we also have significant headwinds. Global demands for industrialization and wealth, people saying, well, rich countries, you got rich. I want some of those same things too. I want air conditioning, so I want more energy. And that is a real driver. I'm not opposed to that. I understand the need to provide resources and a decent quality of life to everyone on the planet. But it is a challenge from a sustainability perspective. Consumer apathy and resistance to change. Of course, the Trump administration and GOP Republican hostility to anything related to what we're talking about today and capital flight. We're a couple years from our peak in climate tech investment. And while still, a substantial sector, see a really significant amount of investment, a lot of money is fleeing into other sectors, particularly AI right now. One thing I should have said at the outset, if there's anything that I say that you want to double click on or you have a question about, please just feel free to unmute, or you can put a question in the chat. Katie's keeping an eye on that. And I'm happy to expound on that if there are any questions. I love to have interaction in my class. It's a little more challenging when we're on Zoom, but we have these tools. So if you want to interject a question or a comment, please feel free. Okay, so I love to talk about your top 4 priorities, and you're going to hear about this in once you get to your business school. But the two that we hear a lot about are your industry sector and your job function. And I would say, think 3 years after graduation, where do you want to be? So we will focus on the top 4 here at UCLA. What is your industry sector? What is your job function? What is your geographic market? And what kind of organization do you want to be in? And then we want to prioritize across these things. So let me give you an example. Electric vehicles, most important thing to me. I really want to work on EVs. I want to work on operations and supply chain, and that supports my mechanical engineering background. I would prefer to be on the West Coast, and I want to work in a funded startup or a mid-sized company. When you bring this kind of information to a career advisor like myself or to alums who are in this space, you show that you are a serious student. You're not just saying, I want to do something in sustainability. I want a good job to help me to grow my skills. Like if you say that, I can't be helpful to you. But if you come in with this kind of specificity, already I'm starting to think about, electric vehicles. Okay, well, we have Rivian and Irvine. We have Nissan and Lexus in Orange County, I believe, or the South Bay, actually. We have Lucid, Tesla, of course, in the Bay Area. So I can start thinking, then what alums are at those schools? Who do we know? How can you network? What conferences can you go to? How do you get smart on what's happening in the EV sector? Who can I connect you to directly? So I know a lot of students want to play it safe, and they think that if they're really broad, and they say, well, I'm open to lots of different things. I just want something in, say, sustainability, or I just want something in tech. It actually works against you because it's just like marketing. If you're not clear about what your niche is in the market, you cannot articulate a strong value proposition, and and people will not resonate with your message. So you cannot articulate a strong value prop that will resonate with them. So get specific. I want you to really think about what is your industry, what is your job function, and then hopefully most people have a clear idea about geography and organization. So we structure things according to different stages. And the first stage is selecting your career destination. What do you not? What do you want for yourself? What is your vision for yourself? What are these top 4 priorities we were just talking about? I like to talk about your beachhead market, which is probably your internship. Sometimes for MBA students, it tends to be I want to do an internship in this new space, and that's the space I want to go into, and it makes sense. But sometimes you might want to do an internship that will give you some experience, even though it might not be what you want to do longer term. Candidate training. So define your market knowledge. We're going to look at some resources for this and articulate your brand and your value proposition. And this is really essential before you get to this stage here. which is, and a lot of students want to like, look at my resume. Are my bullets strong? And the answer is always, well, what are you looking for? What market are you going after? And what do they value? Because the resume, your LinkedIn profiles, your outreach messages, your cover letters should all be a reflection of your brand and the value proposition for particular employers. So I'd really encourage you to do number one and number two before you get caught up with number three. And then there's what I call the prime directive. You can see I'm a Star Trek geek. And that is building professional relationships. So this is the single most important thing. I sometimes wonder, should I put this first? Because this is what we really want you to spend your time doing. And in our sectors here in climate, maybe more than most MBA students, it's absolutely essential that you build professional relationships because most of these companies are looking for one or two MBAs. They're not looking for dozens of MBAs or hundreds of MBAs the way that a management consulting firm will be. They're looking for people who really share their same values, their same obsession with a particular market. So build those professional relationships. I'm not going to talk a lot about that in this session because you're going to hear a ton about that when you get to business school appropriately. And then go to market. What is your plan? Are you primarily going to do on-campus recruiting? Are you going to do a lot of off-campus recruiting? What events are you going to go to? What clubs are you going to join? What is your pace for outreach and having informational interviews with people? We want to pull it all together in one document. I call it a go-to-market plan. You call it a recruiting strategy, a recruiting plan, a launch plan. But you want something to guide you. At UCLA, students have to do this by the end of the summer before the fall term starts so that when recruiting season starts, they're ready to hit the ground running and they know exactly. And that might even include like, I'm not going to do a lot in the fall. I'm going to explore around because really, but when winter comes and January hits, that's really when I'm going to kick off my search. Whereas some of our students are, especially if they're in on-campus recruiting, they are going to be busy from day one. Got our bankers, they start, literally on day one. And they're done by mid-December, they know. So we have different paces depending on what you're interested in. And then there's an interviewing stage, and you'll also hear a ton about this from your career center. So the most important questions, tell me about yourself and why. Most employers make their decisions based on those two questions. Tell me about yourself and why are you here? Why are you interested in our company? Why are you interested in our industry? So really focus on that even before you get focused on all of your behavioral interviews. So actually, I'm going to pause for a second because I'm going to switch into climate stuff now and just see if there are any questions on that. Katie, if that's okay.
Sure. Anyone have a question? You can feel
Any
free.
question on kind of career
Love
strategy in
you.
general?
There is one that just came into the Q&A.
Sure.
There are a lot of certifications out there. Which ones do you recommend for those just starting out in climate change or sustainability? Or are there some specific ones related to the function or industry you want to enter?
In general, I would say I would not get caught up with climate certifications. You're getting an MBA degree, and most of the roles, that would be the prerequisite. If you're an architect, I would say a lead would probably be a good one if you want to stay in architecture and building. But I wouldn't spend a ton of time on certifications, and I suspect that once business school starts, you're not going to have any time to do that. But Katie, and what do you think about this question?
I totally agree. I think that if your employer wants you to have a certification, they will send you for it later, most of the time.
Yeah.
So we have another question. I'm sure you get asked this one a lot, and maybe it's something you want to get to later, but it's about sort of navigating the balance between recruiting for consulting and tech jobs versus climate, and how to, if someone wants a career in a more of a sustainability field, how do they navigate those options?
Yeah. That's an excellent question, and it's not an easy one. And I would say, I mean, this is a great thing to talk with your career advisor about, because you could put together a plan that we would say one or the other is going to be your plan A. Consulting happens really early, so that's something you're going to have to tackle right away. But I would join whatever club or activities are related to climate. And you could very well find these things coming together because Katie says, and I agree with this completely, that how do you say it exactly? Every MBA job is a can be a climate job. Is that right?
Yeah, well, Drawdown says that too. Every job is a climate job.
Right.
So
And one of the biggest growth areas, in addition to AI now, is how do companies decarbonize? How do they have less of a carbon footprint in their supply chain? How do they bring these topics up in marketing? So, as a management consultant, you could very well find yourself, especially if you demonstrate an interest and a knowledge in this space, on a climate related or scope one, two, and three emissions project, some kind of climate related project as a management consultant. So I think it's great that this might be your plan B, being with us in climate, and then consulting could be your plan A, and your ideal would be to combine the two. And then if the consulting doesn't work out for you, and unfortunately, across every business school, we have a lot of disappointed students come January, February, then you've already put in place the seeds for your plan B. All
awesome.
right, that was great. Thank you so much for those questions. We're going to power on. I want to share with you a little framework. This is not my framework. It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that put forward this vision about climate adaptation. And then in the next bucket I'll show you is climate mitigation. And adaptation has to deal a great deal with natural systems. And so changes in biodiversity and ecosystems and oceans and wildfires and so forth. And I would suggest that if you're a student who studied biology or environmental science, you love nature, you love being outdoors, this is something you want to be a part of your career, that you think about climate adaptation. I will point out most of the jobs and the impacts, which are in the human systems, are in these domains here. So health, public health in particular, infrastructure, which tends to be dominated by government and civil engineering, economic disruptions, migration displacement, food and water insecurity. A lot of these jobs, I'll go back to this slide here, have to do with government, non-governmental organizations or nonprofits. Insurance is really impactful in this world, and infrastructure. So that is the adaptation view of the world. The next bucket, and this is important, these words, you're probably familiar with them, but just in case you're not, they're important to understand because it's one of the biggest organizing areas when we talk about the climate space. And then there's mitigation. Mitigation is where most MBAs live, and it has to do with reducing the amount of emissions. And so, business, finance, huge drivers here, mechanical and electrical engineering as well. We see job opportunities. And these are the big six sectors. I'll actually show it to you in this way by plugging the book Speed and Scale. And so if you look at the first six strategies here, electrifying transportation, decarbonizing the grid, fixing food, and so forth, those are the key things that have to happen to address the climate crisis. So you could go and get a job in one of those areas. Now, I'll tell you, you'll probably not feel as much like you're working on the climate crisis as maybe Katie and I do, because we like to talk about it a great deal, because you will be deeply embedded in something like the auto industry. And you'll be talking about more and more electric vehicles and how do we increase the fleet of electric vehicles and decrease the number of fossil fuels vehicles. Or you'll be working, I have a student who has an internship right now with Gallo focused on sustainability, a big winemaker up in the Central Valley of California. So she's focused, but she's in the wine industry. You know, in her case, I think sustainability is her, it's not her industry, but it is her job function. So you will be in one of those industries. Now, if you go into number six, removing carbon, you would be, it's a very niche area right now. Bunch of technologies trying to figure out how to suck carbon out of the air. You might feel like, oh, I'm really directly working on the climate crisis more than some of these others. But I also want to talk about 7 through 10. So, and this is a framework put together by this famous venture capitalist named John Doerr um, in Silicon Valley. But he really built on a lot of existing research, and I think he put together this very simple to understand framework. And 7 through 10 are the enablers. And it's actually here that we're hitting most of our challenges, particularly number 7, winning politics and policy. We are not winning politics and policy right now, at least in the United States. Other parts of the world, actually, particularly China, I'd say the climate movement is winning there and making huge progress. Turning movements into action, we've kind of dropped off the radar on the list of top priorities. Innovation, there's been a lot of scientific and technical progress, and I would say business progress. We've actually made a lot of progress on the innovation front and investment, really significant investment dollars. So if you want to know more and like this can be useful to you to figure out where you want to focus, I'd encourage you to go to the Speed and Scale Tracker. And they do summarize it well with this tagline, unprecedented progress, far more urgency and ambition needed. So it's not that we haven't made progress over the last 15 or 20 years. We've actually made really enormous progress, but it is so far away from where we need to go to avoid the worst outcomes of the warming planet. So that's mitigation. Um, Many people would stop here. I want to go on and have added regeneration to this framework. And I think it's because I'm hopeful that one or two of you will really change the world. And we really need new models of political economy. And I think it would be wrong for me to do this presentation without addressing that there is a whole new way of thinking about the world. Ricky will come to you in 1 second. And so I wanted to share with you a little framework, and maybe this inspires some curiosity in you. A book called Donut Economics, which is a different way to think about really about economics. And in this approach to econ, we put humanity's social needs in the center and say, okay, what does everybody on the planet need from water, food, health, education, and so forth? And right now, many areas of the world and within any country are in significant shortfall. And we also have an ecological ceiling of what the planet's carrying capacity could be. And there's a safe and just space for humanity, and that's what economics should really be about. And on the outside, we have those constraints of which the planet can support life, current form of lives, I guess. And you can see, and we're in real deficit in both the social needs as well as many of these areas. So it's a radically different way. It's not something you're going to learn in your econ class. I hope that a few of you will go and give some brief to your econ professors because we can't, the existing way, in my opinion, of just extracting resources from the earth is not sustainable over the long term. And so this is a whole radical different way of thinking about this. Sadly, there are not a lot of jobs in this area, but I did want to put it forward as a framework. So wrapping this section up, there I would encourage you to check out some of these resources if they were of interest to you. And I'm sure that Katie is distributing this slide deck if you want to come back to these things. I will also point out the very first article, it's a little dated now, but it still, I think, holds up quite well, is actually a recent MBA who is not much older than all of you right now, but really put together a mental framework for combating climate change and has really had a huge impact now at Stripe in terms of creating climate finance opportunities for everybody who's using Stripe as a platform to pay for things. So let me pause there. Katie, I know we had a question come in.
Yes, we have a question about how to pivot. So, how does not having a previous background in climate or sustainability require a different plan for someone who might already have some background?
I think it all depends on the role that you're looking for and what are the requirements for that role. I have had students with very technical backgrounds excel. I've had students with not at all technical backgrounds also excel. And I think it comes back to what are you looking for. So I have a student, he's actually the president of our Energy and Clean Tech Association here right now, who has really limited background. I mean, no significant background, but he went all in. Fantastic social skills, soft skills, and built relationships and picked up fantastic internship with our local utility. So I think it's all a part about your value proposition and you're willing to make a commitment, as well as what the job requirements are. I have a different student, electrical engineer, and when I met him, very awkward, kind of shy, very nerdy engineer. And I said, we talked about it and said, if I was you, I would build on your existing technical skills and go places and compete for roles that are highly technical, where you're going to be using your MBA skills, but you're going to be supervising a team of other electrical engineers. And that's exactly the internship that he got. He competed in an area where others who didn't have his same engineering background could not. So great question. Katie, what do you think?
I think you've said it well, Marcus. Yeah,
Okay,
nothing to
great.
add. Yeah, it's terrific.
Was there another question?
Yes, there is another question. This one is about international students recruiting for climate. We do have some students calling from other regions on our call today, but I'm going to interpret this as an international student studying at, for instance, a US based business school who would like to recruit in the US. Do you have thoughts on the landscape and the
Yeah, I
strategies?
will tell you that this one is more challenging. And it's challenging for two reasons. One is that there will be some roles, particularly in energy, for which they will not hire non-US citizens for security reasons. And so, like the local energy utility that is around you, which can be a great jumping off point for a career, may just not even be willing to consider students. The other issue is that many of our startups in the space are smaller companies, and so they're not in a position where they're looking to do H-1B visas. Having said that, there's a lot of companies out there, and I'd encourage you to look at some of those companies for sponsorship. So it would all go into what are the job requirements for the particular companies. And then the other thing I would say is, and I know many people, lots of MBA students come to this country because to get a master's degree because they want to stay in the United States. There are fantastic opportunities in climate happening in other countries, which frankly, especially right now, may be more enlightened from a regulatory perspective, creating more opportunities.
So I'm getting questions about that too, and there's one in our chat as well. Have you helped students who are US-based students navigate a job search internationally? And what does that look like?
Little bit. I mean, for sure, we have students. They tend to require less support from the Career Center, but we will talk about strategy stuff. One thing I will say is that some of the really big employers, I'm thinking of a healthcare-oriented student right now, who ended up, or I can think of a consulting student who recruited locally, but said they weren't actually interested, in one case, going to London, another case, going to Dubai. And so you might go through your university's recruiting process, be clear, I'm actually interested in going to this other country, and they could connect you through. Yeah. In other cases, about understanding a lot of the same building blocks and strategies that we use here, except you're using it in that other market. But it's and I'd say go and visit that market if it's not your native market or your home country. Go so that you can go and build relationships there, and they say, "Oh, you're really serious about coming to our country."
Awesome.
Let me move us along and to the resources section. So this is Katie's chart actually, but I do think she mapped these various industry sectors into the project drawdown framework, which was one of my resources on the previous page as well. It's a fantastic strategy. This one is oriented around what are the strategies that we need to do. I think there's a lot of overlap with speed and scale, but slightly different framework. You can find this at the ClimateCAP website. And I wanted to point out there's this fantastic organization called Open Door Climate that has signed up lots of climate professionals who are willing to do informational interviews to people exploring climate careers. So search Open Door Climate and you can sign up and just say, I want to start doing informational interviews. I don't know that this exists in other industries, but I think it's pretty cool that somebody put it together in our climate space. And then here's another Fuqua resource that is fantastic issue briefs for the climate and sustainability industry. And then there's mine, which I'm so excited to share with you right now. We're launching this right now to all of you, and I hope that you will share this with your classmates and friends. It's open to the world. You can access it, and I want you to access it right now. I actually have a little assignment for you to do. So type in climatecap.launchpad.career. You don't even have to sign in. You do have to sign in if you want to save companies, but to just access it now, you can just sign in and have a look and see. Choose either an industry sector to go explore or choose a job function. And I gave you a question. I'd love to hear your answers to it. The first one, if you choose an industry sector, the susceptibility to AI disruption, and then find 6 employers in the space. And if you choose a career, what are the top 3 skills necessary for that career? So I'm going to give you a minute or two and then come back and report back verbally to the group. And how should people put something in Q&A or just raise hands or what do you think, Katie?
Do you want them to speak?
Yeah, they can just speak.
I think let's do the hand raise. Yeah.
Okay, Letha has a raised hand.
Hey Marcus, hi everyone. It's Lisa. Sorry, I actually
Letha.
don't. Yes, yes, thank you. I actually can't answer yet because I'm just trying to locate this. Do you mind? Is it possible to share a link in the?
Oh, sure.
Oh, it's in there. Jessica put it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh,
Just
Jessica's
copy
on
and
it.
paste that. Yeah.
All right,
Your
perfect. Thank you
browser.
very much.
Mhm.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so where do you want to start, Marcus? Do you want to start with a report out on a career and identify?
Yeah, who has an industry sector that they can report back on?
And I'll just note that we are recording this session, so anybody who's speaking, this will go into the recording, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, so moment of immortality here. Don't be shy. Business school is not a place for shy people.
I can
Say.
volunteer.
Thank you. Who's that?
My name is Adam Ahmed. I'm going to Michigan Ross. Pretty
All
excited.
right, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and this has been a great session. I really, first off, really appreciate this website. I'm definitely going to be exploring this more. So I just clicked into the job functions and careers tile, and I selected I believe it was the finance option, and I opened up corporate finance. So um, just reading a little bit here about it, the focus seems to be like uh, allocating capital to align with the company strategy and long-term goals. So I mean that kind of aligns with what I was thinking, and I didn't read like the whole thing yet. I definitely have
No, there's a lot of
much
stuff
more
in
to
there.
read,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like that there's a lot of information here, and then even seeing there was like looked like there was job listings and leadership development programs below that I saw. So yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
got.
so can you see at the bottom, did you find some companies in the space?
Yeah, I think I saw Bay Systems, I believe. I saw something for them. Let me scroll down. Yeah, there's a financial leadership development program.
Oh yeah, if LDPs. Not enough students look at LDPs, which is why I built that database. A lot of people will just say like they'll default to iBanks, consulting firms, and big tech companies. But the leadership development programs are a fantastic way to get broad exposure to a company. It can be a great way to launch your career, especially for pivoters. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Who looked at the career side?
Hey, Marcus, happy to volunteer as well.
Awesome. Please.
Yeah, no
And tell
problem.
us who you are and what school you're going to.
Awesome. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Lita.
Oh, Lisa
Just
again. Yes.
I'm currently in South Africa, so tuning in here. I'm excited to attend Georgia Tech in the fall.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Right, so I clicked on entrepreneurship, and then specifically within that, the social entrepreneurship in there. Um, and saw some interesting. It's really cool that so like the motivators around this and some of the skills and employability here. It's interesting that advocacy is a key career leader skill. So it sounds a bit scary to be honest, right? Because we all have one view of advocacy, but I think it's really cool to see that this is something that, if you want to grow into the space, you have to, I guess, try to get into. I actually can't find the employers though. I'm not sure if I'm missing that here. Or the
No, employers map into industries, they don't map into careers. But you can kind of jump, if you look within the career section, you'll see what industries have that particular function that you're looking at. And so then you would go back into careers there.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
So
But
that's by
it's
design. Yeah.
good with that. And I really found the where it lives part interesting as well. So oh, okay, I have to look at health equity, venture capital, and entrepreneurship, just to understand that's where actually the social entrepreneurship might be sitting. So yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, love it. Maria.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any advice? Um, I'm in Colorado at CU Boulder, and I've been here for a while working on my MBA and a master's of the environment, and I would like to work in the local vet government space. Um, so I guess that would fall under the social sector and leadership. But do you have advice for how you get into that space?
That's a good question. Well, first, you have the advantage of being at CU Boulder. Is it Kathleen, Katie, who's there in CU? I would go talk to you have really good support
And
within your school.
Catherine Wendell.
Catherine, yeah, Catherine. And so I would go speak to them. I've worked in the city or in the city of Los Angeles and with the city of Los Angeles. And I would say there are different ways in. I mean, one way in is through the civil service, and you can apply and kind of go through that process. You could also join an elected official, a city council person, a mayor, a governor, and enter that way, frequently as staff to that person. And then that you'll start building relationships and seeing a lot of the opportunities. The public sector is also exciting because it is, unlike much of the private sector, it's designed to be open and somewhat transparent. So there's lots of opportunities to go to sessions where the public is doing its business, or your elected officials are doing their business in public. And so you can go and meet people that way and engage. I'd encourage you to do an internship. I have one student, former Navy nuclear engineer, doing an internship with the city of Los Angeles in the mayor's office right now. He just keeps getting more and more responsibilities because he's a really bright, hardworking guy. So it's very possible to do. You've got to get out just like anywhere else, but it's more open and more transparent is to go and meet those people who are in the roles that are doing right what you want to do right now, whether they're staff or they're elected officials, to start building those relationships and having them explain what the opportunities are for you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go to Prathamesh.
Hey, hi Marcus. Hi
Hi,
Katie. I'm calling from Mumbai, India,
wonderful,
and I'll be joining the full-time MBA at the University of Manchester in the
great.
UK.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, thanks for this tool and thanks for this session. This has been really insightful. Uh, while I'm navigating this portal, which is really useful, what I'm primarily looking at are the international opportunities, right? So when I go to the regions and tab cities, it gives me of around 516 company options which are internationally. So just was curious that how do I navigate for an international opportunities and particularly non-US markets?
Right. I mean, admittedly, I built this primarily for American students, and
Hmm.
so and I'm in UCLA in Los Angeles, so you'll have quite a strong skewing to California. There are some,
Hmm.
like, would you say 400-ish companies that
Right.
are international. They're going to be the big giants.
Hmm.
But I would, and a number of them are in the UK, if that's where you're looking for or hoping to stay.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I would also then just take this approach, talk to ChatGPT, talk to um, Claude or whichever LLM you like. You could even take one of
Hmm.
my reports and say, I'm interested in this sector. What companies are in my local market?
Okay.
And then you could build it out, a bunch of different companies in the UK, or maybe you want to be somewhere else in Europe, or maybe you want to go back to India to
Yeah.
identify companies, and then find the local publications, the resources, the events that are in
Hmm.
your target market. And you could reproduce a lot of this stuff. You could even upload. I even created tools so you could download it as a PDF, and you could say,
Right.
"Hey, I'm interested. Could you adapt this?" To this particular local geography.
Awesome. But that's a useful starting point for sure. Thanks,
Awesome,
Marcus.
great. Let's wrap up this part because I know we're getting into a lot of Q&A, which I love. So thank you for the Q&A, but I want to move us. In conclusion, um, for those of you who are interested in pivoting, I've got this little simple formula. So the function of a successful pivot is, one, is your market growing? It's very hard to get hired into a market where there's not growth opportunity. If everybody is just trying to hold on to their job and not get fired, it's very hard to get hired in there. Do you have a value proposition that will resonate with that market? So you have the skills, and this is not just hard skills. It's actually, even at the MBA level, more about the soft skills. You need to have the hard skills, but what really differentiates students is the soft skills. It's your level of engagement. It's whether you present well. It is how you get along with others and lead teams and on and on. So do you have a value proposition that will resonate? How effective are you at building relationships with your target market? And have you put together a sound recruiting strategy? So when you put those things together, that is what leads to a successful pivot. So I'm going to ask for Q&A, and I do have my contact information on the last slide. I'll show that in just a second. But I'd love you to kind of just reflect on this session, what you found useful as we go into to the Q&A. So let's, I know I had to cut that off a little bit because I wanted to get to that in conclusion slide. But feel free, please, to
So,
answer that.
Marcus, we had a question earlier, a couple of questions.
Okay.
There were some interest in climate finance, and that was one of in your first Slido, that was one of the
Yep.
areas that
Yep.
rose to the top. What's your take on sort of the best path into climate finance, particularly? Is it like through the investment banks? Is it, another pathway through infrastructure finance? Yeah. Do you have a strategy?
Yeah, I'm going to struggle with that one a little bit, to be honest. I might kick it over to you, Katie, because I think there are different ways in. But the first thing I'll say is, if you're not interested in finance, don't be interested in climate finance.
It's
So
like,
if the idea of going and working for a Goldman Sachs is not something that excites you, then don't think that because you put climate in front of that word that it's going to make it somehow better. But there's a lot of different kind of finance that you could call climate finance. Being in the development bank could be a good example of one. So you want to go work for a World Bank, an IFC, or one of the regional development banks. Fantastic, go for that. I have a student from Brazil, and that was exactly what he did, and he's living his dream, and it's fantastic. Um, or you could go do project finance for a renewable energy company, and that's a very different path. You could work in venture capital. I don't know if you consider that climate finance, channeling investments in this area. Each of these are going to have different strategies to get there, but I would kind of look at what is the word that comes after climate, whether it's banking or it's project finance or it's venture capital or angel investing or whatever that is about. That is going to be what drives your recruiting strategy. Katie, what do you think?
I agree. I think climate finance is a pretty big umbrella. It could also, besides the ones you mentioned, it could include infrastructure finance at an investment bank or private equity. It could include insurance products, right?
Insurance is a big one. Not enough students look at insurance.
And that's going
Yes.
to be like a really hot topic going forward in the adaptation years. It could include like green banks and green bonds. So there's a lot of specialized finance projects too that might apply in the climate space. So I think getting really clear on kind of what is the change you're trying to help contribute to in the world is the starting point. And then you gotta find the answer to all of these questions is you have to find someone who's working in the space and talk to them and ask them
Yes,
what they think
100%.
and how do you get into that role and what are the skills you need and whatever that niche interest is, it's you got to find the experts actually who are in that field and ask them their opinion.
Great. Yeah, very well said. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, regeneration is killing it. And I
Yeah.
almost dropped that out of the framework, so I'm glad I didn't. Good. Maybe you guys are the generation that's going to turn things around for us. Other questions?
This is a little bit related to the jobs in other markets. Someone asked about talking about the CSRD specifically, have the regulations in the EU impact job opportunities in the US? You have a take on that?
I don't know. Help me out with CSRD. What is that?
That's the European climate regulatory framework.
Okay.
I'm gonna get the exact acronym wrong too, but
Right, right.
I think that
Yeah,
I'll just
please.
start like that. I think if you're a multinational company, we heard this in our last session. If you're a multinational company with global supply chain, you have to be aware of what is happening on the policy front or not happening in the US, but you're also operating in all these other markets. So to some extent, this is where the headwinds and tailwinds discussion you had earlier, Mark, is
Hmm.
if even if the US is pulling back on like the SEC, ruling and regulations here, there's still so much happening in other markets. If you are a global company, your sustainability team is paying attention to sustainability across borders.
Absolutely. I guess from a generic perspective, I would just bring it back to your local market and what is happening in your market. So, which is, I think, what Katie was saying. Like, just to bring it back to California as an example again, we had the head of the California Energy Commission on campus a year or so ago, and he was like, "We don't care what the federal government's doing. We're going to keep driving forward to our climate goals." That obviously would be very different if you're in Texas. It's very different if you're in Europe right now. It's very different if you're in China right now. So, and each of those, yes, they absolutely can be job drivers, both internally for that sustainability staff or that supply chain team, or they can be outsourced to consulting firms. We had an alum who came back to speak, and she was just going gangbusters at KPMG doing scope 1, 2, and 3 analyses for companies. But if you don't like accounting, you're not going to like that kind of work just because it has climate put in front of it. Right. It is fundamentally, it's really close to an accounting function, which is like why a firm like KPMG excels at that. So yes, it all
I'm
goes
going to give
back to the local, what's happening in the local regulatory environment, and which is what can drive those jobs. Katie, what do you say?
I was just going to give a little asterisk to that, which is I have also heard from corporate sustainability officers, they do not like it when a student calls them up and says, well, I don't like metrics and reporting. Because every corporate sustainability function, whether you're the one doing the accounting or not, is doing metrics and reporting, whether that's internally or externally overseeing your consultants. You have to know enough about it
Yeah,
to be conversant in it. So
yeah.
yeah, you don't have to be the
We
accountant necessarily.
right, right. Yeah. So Here's my contact info. I mentioned Launchpad to you. I hope you check it out. And feel free to, I'd love to connect with you. I do post a lot on career stuff on my LinkedIn as well. And you can see the whole Launchpad metaphor, which makes, I'm a big science fiction nerd.
We won't
We have a few more minutes for
tell
questions.
NASA that you took their
I stole it
copyrighted
from NASA.
logo.
You know, the good thing about the federal stealing stuff from the federal government or governments in general is that they don't sue you.
I'm going to replace your slides for just a minute so
Okay.
that we can wrap up our session right now. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Marcus, for
My
presenting.
pleasure. My pleasure.
So
Thank
many
you,
great
Katie.
resources. I'm really excited to explore your new Launchpad tool myself a little bit more in depth. I know our students will be using it, and it would be great to have feedback from everyone who does. I want to thank everybody for joining us. As you know, this is just the beginning of our Climate Catalyst workshop. So we've got 2 more sessions coming up. We have been presenting a lot of information in our workshop today, and the Climate Connect session coming up at 3:45 Eastern Time is your chance to actually get into dialogue. So this is a chance to discuss what you heard today or your career interests, or maybe you meet someone else who shares your particular interest in electric vehicles or climate finance. This will be a really informal networking, a chance to, we'll put MBAs and breakouts by region. So it'll be a chance for you to meet some other students who are in the same geographic region as you, and a chance to just talk and get to know each other. It's a good practice for all that networking you're going to be doing for your career this year. So don't skip it. And then today was really about presenting you with a lot of the sort of the groundwork, the introductory content on climate and business and climate careers. But our next 2 days are going to be where you really get to get in the weeds. So we'll start tomorrow with a session on climate policy. Look ahead at the program. We're going to do a deep dive on AI and climate. We have a whole session on energy. We're going to do an En-ROAD simulation, as well as more career sessions and Climate Connect. So don't stop here. Join us for our sessions tomorrow and Thursday. Excuse me, because we think you'll get a lot out of like really getting into some of those details, and you can really get into the detailed questions about regulations and trends and companies in those sessions as well. So thanks again for everyone for joining us. We'll close this session, but hope that you will come back to using the same link in just a few minutes to have some networking. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks again, Marcus.
Best of luck to you. Thank you, Katie.